All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am young Ari Gold, and I am joined by my friend and co-host and still COVID infected John Wade, the Garnet Texan.
Dude, this
John,
this
is it ever going
is
to go away?
I I don't even know. This is so beyond miserable. Well, I've only had it for about seven days. A little over 7 days. No, I got it a week ago on Saturday is when I finally was positive. I my kid my the baby got it, then Robin got it, then the 5-year-old got it, and then I finally got it. And it's just, now it's just sticking around. And I'm convinced where I messed up was trying to push through it the first couple of days I had it because it was just like a bad cold and
Mm,
not resting. Whereas like I should have just chilled out and rest and slept more, and then I'd be through it. But I'm stubborn, I'm dumb, and I didn't, and I'm still fighting it.
jeez, wow. Well, the uh, the NFL got blown up today.
It absolutely did.
I think it's pretty fair to say it was turned upside down, put in a jar, shook it around. The NFL actually has its second real issue. The first one went away because they wanted it to. This one, I don't think there's a way for this to just go away.
Dude, I think it's pretty safe to say that Brian Flores won't be our next coach.
You think it's safe to say that?
What do you think?
I don't know. Part of me thinks that like all of this was just like Casario just waiting in the wing. He had an idea. A lot of this was going to come out, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting, and now he looks like the superhero. He hires Flores, who was built to be this BOB character when it was really Chris Greer and Stephen Ross. Belichick accidentally texts him,
I know, right?
and doesn't, instead of Brian Dabble. I don't know.
I mean, Flores was obviously like the most qualified of the coaching candidates we still have left. Like, I mean, he had a very good track record in Miami. Other than until those stories coming out about him supposedly embarrassing Tuva, Tua, Tua. Sorry, I still just but until those stories that apparently he berated Tua, and then not getting along with like the assistant coaches. Before then, like he was the coaching candidate you wanted, like
Yep.
bar none. Like he was the number one for everybody. And then these stories just kept getting leaked, and all of a sudden, he may not get hired this cycle. And when you hear some of the stuff, especially with like this lawsuit, it's like, wait a second, did Flores just literally get slandered because he was working for a scumball?
That's what it sounds like.
Dude, it I mean, it sounds absolutely awful if you're the guy that owns the Dolphins. I'm forgetting his name right now, but
Stephen Ross.
yeah, Stephen Ross. He's going to be forced to sell, don't you think?
I know.
Right?
It's too early. I don't like when all that stuff, like people say that stuff because it's the first day of the story. Um, and who knows what else comes out. I still think there's just too much time to really have an idea
Well,
on.
trying to pay off your coach to lose a game,
It's got to be
like to get
proven.
I mean, I don't think you make that sort of accusation without like
Sure,
something.
100%. And so if we go based off of all of Brian Flores's reports and things that he has, then yeah, 100%. Stephen Ross should have to sell the team. And Miami Dolphin fans and media would be super excited for that to be the case. Um, but we'll find out more tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when Brian Flores is on Good Morning America.
Dude, he's not pulling any punches. Like straight out there on the press tour, like he is just going
He's
to let
on
it all air
athletes.
out.
He's an
Yeah.
athlete's first guy.
I'm
So
abs I'm absolutely amazed. Usually like the NFL, like they don't let their dirty laundry get aired like this.
yeah, they don't. They really don't. It's I don't know, man. It's an interesting situation. It'd be pretty awesome to see Caserio kind of swoop in, hire Flores for the right reason, right? Because
Right.
he's the right coach, not because he's a black man, um, but really just kind of stick it to the NFL. Their their race issues that they've had for multiple years. I mean, it was just last year, if you remember, they had to add that rule where um, if you hire one of our black assistant head coach or OCs or anything like that as a head coach, we get a third round pick. I mean, they just keep going. They take step backwards every time they
Mhm.
try to do something to help other races out within and create some inclusion in the NFL. So um, I don't know. It's wild. I mean, we interviewed him the second time. What, yesterday? Right?
Was it yesterday? Like my
Yeah,
my
I
timeline's
think
all
it was
messed up.
yesterday.
When they put out that super cryptic text that they finished discussions with three guys,
Yeah,
not interviews, discussions.
yeah.
And then it came out that they interviewed KOC and it was like, or Kevin O'Connell. And it was like, so which interview was it with Kevin O'Connell? Why wasn't he on the finished discussions? Which, I mean, we'll get to that here in a second. But I mean, if Flores and Casario had legitimately have been in contact, like, which is what the rumor apparently is, like they have continued to talk this entire time, then, and he's not this Bill O'Brien, like, figure. I mean, you would think that he would be our number one candidate.
Well, and if you remember when everything first started, uh, that was who, like that was who was tied to us from the beginning.
Right.
That was the guy that everybody just assumed it was a done deal. Um, and I mean, it makes sense. Look, I think Brian Flores is a very, very good coach. Now that we know kind of what he went through, all 3 years he was in Miami, he was kind of coaching with one hand behind his back. Told the tank, told to set up meetings with, I believe Deshaun Watson based on things that I was told 3 months ago. Um, Jordan knows exactly what I'm talking about. I think me and Jordan had it. I think I showed you. Um, there's a couple people that I showed that Watson and David planned this in 2020, this whole thing before he even signed his contract. So people can go out and say it's Brady. Brady doesn't make sense to me. Why would Brady join the awful Miami Dolphins? Like,
And
and I
just
get it.
the timing of it for Brady, it really wouldn't have been tampering. Like it
No,
was
it
so
wouldn't have been
close to him.
tampering. He would have been a free agent.
Yeah. It just doesn't make any
Uh,
sense.
it doesn't make sense. And like, why would he go to a terrible organization with a bad offensive line, no weapons, a okay defense at that time, but not a good defense, and then also have to play the Bills twice a year? I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't get behind the fact that it would be Tom Brady. I can't. And then you just
I'm
add all the pieces, Deshaun and Jilly being in Miami in January 30th and February 1st and February 2nd. And there's just so many things. And I'm not trying to put Pat down because I know Pat has people he talks to. But the people that I talked to told me totally opposite of what Pat has said. And I'm not trying to contradict or say that Pat doesn't know anything because Pat does. Pat typically knows more than I do. But it just makes too much sense for it to be Deshaun Watson. It adds up
yeah.
with that. It adds up with the story, and then it adds up with the trade negotiations, preseason, draft, trade deadline. Like all of it makes sense. All of it.
The only thing that makes sense for it to be Brady is the people saying that it was Brady. That's it. Like if you look at the big picture, if you take away those like talking head voices, you take away people like Pat, you take away a lot of the national guys that have already reported that it was Brady. If you take all that away and you just look at circumstances, it had to be Deshaun. Like common sense says it has to be Deshaun. But you do have somebody out there saying that no, it was Brady. And it's trusted people that are saying that it's Brady. That's the only thing that points to it being Brady is trusted people. and I say trusted almost with air quotes because some of them I don't trust. I do trust Pat, but I mean at the same time we've known from experience that some of the people that tell Pat definitely have their own agenda, and they've misled Pat and they've left him out to dry definitely several times before.
Well, and not just Pat, but other people too. A
Yeah.
lot of the same people that Pat talks to, they've left other people out to dry. Charles Robinson being one of them. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's just look, the source game. We talked about it towards the end of last season. It's a devious game. It is a game that can change on the dime, literally within seconds of a conversation that you're told it could have changed by the end of that conversation. It's just the way that it goes, and it's a tough business to be in. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, it
And
just
I mean
makes
it
the most sense.
and it actually matters because if it was Deshaun, that is tampering, and we should just get picks from the Dolphins. Like if it
Well,
legitimate,
but that's not how it goes. You don't get the picks; they just take the picks away,
yeah.
right?
No,
They've never
I think you
gifted.
I think you get awarded, like because we were the team tampered with. We get awarded the picks.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that happened with New England and Caserio,
Yeah.
right? Did we lose a
So
pick with when we tampered with Caserio?
no, because we backed off.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
But we would have lost a pick. We would have surrendered a pick to New England.
It's crazy.
So
Everything's crazy.
so for the Deshaun situation, like we're not just talking about it for it to be dramatic because it is great drama or whatnot, a great soap opera. Like I actually care because if it is Deshaun, like draft picks, like extra draft picks, like that's all we care about right now. Like Deshaun's not playing for the Texans ever again. Like some of y'all
No.
out there on Twitter, like y'all need to just suck it up. Like this is if you're talking about like the pure football player, yes, the team is worse off without Deshaun coming back. Like we all know that, but there's nothing we can do. He's not playing for the Texans again. And then you put all the accusations on it. It's like, why would you want him to? And even without the accusations, he did quit. Like, you didn't say anything wrong. Like, he legitimately quit. Whether or not he had reason to quit, whether or not he had a valid reason to quit, might be up for discussion, but he did quit on the Texans. So why would you want him back? So some of y'all on Twitter, just chill. He's not coming back. You shouldn't want him back. But that's besides the point. At this point, what we need is, are we actually going to get compensation for losing him? And if he goes to jail, but they tampered, we still get compensation. So, that is something to actually care about.
Yeah. No, it's wild. Just everything is so wild. The best part is that the Texans, until they hire Josh McCown, aren't the laughing stock of the NFL. I mean, there's at least 4 teams that are worse,
I know, right?
which is nice. I don't believe Josh McCown will be hired, but
That is about the only way that I'll be upset. I mean, with this coach. And it's one of those like, do we want to go down that road already, or are we still talking
yeah,
about
we
other
can.
things?
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about whatever at this point. There's not really
You
an
know,
agenda for tonight.
you know, I mean, Josh McCown, I get it. You want to be bold. You want to do something outside what everybody else has done. That's how the Rams ended up with Sean McVay. Like Sean McVay, remember that hire was trashed, and he's been a great, great coach. But he was super young. They were like, "Oh, well, Wade Phillips is really going to coach, or going to be coach, like assistant head coach or whatnot, because he's so young. There's just no way that he's going to be able to do it." And you know what? McVay's worked out pretty well. This is going to be their second Super Bowl. Like he's been, and that was thinking outside the box. But going after McCown is too far outside the box, in my personal opinion. And I could be wrong. And like what you said last year, especially about Brady, it's like, well, what if you let McCown go somewhere else and he gets the experience and he turns into what everybody expects him to be? And then you've lost out on him, which is a fair point. But part of it being the optics, part of it being what actually bothers me more is typically you hire a head coach based on the assistant coaches that are able to bring in. Like what type of staff can they put together? And if you hire McCown, it just feels like Caserio's just building that staff again. And he did it to Cully. but doing it for 2 coaches in a row, that rubs me a little bit the wrong way. And you just don't know what.
I don't know what you mean by.
Oh,
Hey Siri, I was just building.
Oh, Siri. Hey there.
oops. But sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's right.
I'm just saying that, I mean, that just seems a little too hands-on for 2 coaches, 2 years. Like, at that point, Caserio, just be the coach yourself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't see, honestly, just the whole thing, whether it's Josh McCown, Jonathan Gannon, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores. Am I missing somebody? I think those are the 4.
Yeah, that's it.
I still don't see a scenario where Josh McCown is hired as the head coach. I do see him on the coaching staff. I do see him being highly regarded within the building, but I just can't see Nick hiring him as the head coach. Look, if he does, I'll definitely understand the questioning of Nick's decisions. It's going to be really hard for me to try to defend anything at that point because it doesn't make the most sense. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not a general manager. I really don't know. I don't know the qualifications or what I'm looking for in the next Houston Texans head coach. I don't. I don't know what it should be. I don't know, why they should be. I honestly don't know. I've been in hiring positions before for managers and things of that nature, and I always look for. I don't ever really look for experience. I look for traits and qualities. Um, leaders. Do they can they effectively lead? Can they be taught? Are they constant learners? Are they always looking to get better? Are they respected? Those are the types of things I look for because I feel like all the rest of the stuff you can teach, right? You could teach X's and O's. You could teach, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like when there's a Brian Flores out there and the possible, Kevin O'Connell or Jonathan Gannon, I mean, I understand it.
Well, I
It's going to
mean,
be a complicated process no matter what.
as someone that's hired a bunch of people too, it's a crapshoot.
No matter
Like,
what.
yeah, like you could have the best candidate on paper. You could have
Yep.
somebody that absolutely crushed the interview process.
Yep.
And then when they actually get there and they get into the situation, they suck. Like, that
Yep.
has happened countless amount of times. So here's the thing about McCown is you can't defend it.
Yeah.
But all you can do, because there is no resume or anything to defend. All you can say is have patience with it. Like, it's almost like a different way. It's a different way of looking at a coaching hire. And he's honestly the one that, because I mean, there's nothing to look forward because you just don't know. You have to be with him. You'd have to be more patient.
Yep.
And it's if he ends up getting the job, I'm not gonna. I still can't hop to this. Oh, it's because he's friends with Easterby. I can't get behind that. Like, I've said that. We've said it many times. We've talked about it many times. There is no way that Caserio, who is in a position that he's worked his entire life for, that he had the number 2 position in New England, why would he make himself a number 2 to a pasture? Like, why would he give up his life dream, his one shot to be a GM, his one shot to control a franchise? Why would he give all that up to be second fiddle to a passer? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But that's the criticism that you're going to have to deal with McCown. But I don't believe that's why McCown would be hired. If McCown's hired, it's because Caserio believes he's actually the best person for the job. You just can't defend it.
Yeah. I mean, I've been saying that for, 3 or 4 months. And I know that I'm viewed as an Easterby apologist. And I don't really know why. I don't. I just try to come at things with somewhat logic and just think. I like to think for myself. I don't want to sit here and read a John McClain article or a Brian T. Smith article and then spew out exactly what I read. Um, I just think that it's it just doesn't make a ton of sense Do I think that he has some sway? 100% I do.
Yeah. Oh,
Do I do
definitely.
I do I think that his opinion is taken into consideration? I do. Do I think that Nick ultimately goes wherever Jack, whatever way Jack wants him to go or Jack is leaning? I just don't. I don't.
Well,
I can't
I
see
think
it.
that one of the more level-headed people that have put it out there is Rivers McCown, who's definitely anti Easterby, and I get it. Like, I'm not pro Easterby. Like, that's again, I'm right there with you. It's like I don't understand why if you don't hate the man, then you must be pro Easterby. It's like I don't. It's like I just don't give a shit about him. Like I've moved on. Like he got fired from his personnel job. He's still a
Yep.
Texan, but he got fired from his personnel job. But I do agree with what Rivers said that you are kind of shaped by the people that are around you. And if Easterby is always in his ear, like I do get that, and I do understand that concern. But ultimately, like he may be shaped by it. It's Nick Caserio making that call. It's not
Yeah.
Easterby making the call. It's Caserio making the call.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense to come here and just let a pastor dictate what you're doing. Like ultimately, that's like what I come back to every single time. I get it. What he's done, what he did with OB, all of that, I get all of it. And he's totally wrong for every single thing. And he made horrible, horrible, horrible decisions. Um, but like, what are we gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna be mad at the organization, but still tweet about them 24/7, and still watch every game on Sunday and watch every press conference. Like, dude, what is the point at that point? Like,
Yeah.
why are you driving yourself crazy? That's nuts.
And I
If
mean,
you,
Bill O'Brien got fired,
yep,
and apparently they were 1A and 1B or whatever, however that was working. Caserio lost his opportunity to be involved with personnel.
yep,
Like he was given that opportunity, and he obviously crashed and burned. So yeah, again, what do you want? I mean, it is an easy target. I mean, it is also fair that Easterby has never taken a press conference. What he's taken one, maybe ever. So, I mean, again, those are all fair complaints, but the person that everybody should pay attention to, and the person making decisions is Caserio. Like, I don't even think that, I mean, Cal McNair isn't even making decisions anymore. This is Nick Caserio's team, for good or for ill. Like, instead of being mad at Easterby, be mad at Caserio if something's coming out that you don't like. If it's a bad hire, it's like Caserio is listening to Easterby. It's like no, you're like doing it halfway. Like be mad at Caserio. He's the one making the decision.
yeah, yeah. Point blank. Period, man. I don't know. It's just exhausting. Um, it is. It's exhausting. Thank you so much for the congratulations. I appreciate it. Um, so now that we're down to it, I believe by next Tuesday when we record again, um, we will have a new Houston Texans head coach. Do you
Yeah.
agree, John?
Well, even if they haven't announced it, if they haven't announced it by the time we record next week, then it's Kevin O'Connell.
Right. So we'll at least have an idea.
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
I mean, my 1A and 1B is O'Connell and Flores, but then it was like I retreated it as a joke where they were saying that the Sean McAvee's coaching tree already has already had somebody in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, well, give me O'Connell, because that's kind of the point. Like, because I mean, there may be something to it. Belichick, none of his tree has made it, but O'Connell and the Kubiak tree, like they've had a lot of success. And what's appealing to me about O'Connell is like he was a quarterback in the Patriots system. So he understands that system. He already understands a lot of the personnel and everything that the Texans are already using. But he's coached under McVay. So once you've got, I think that's a unique mix. Like I don't know if he'd have instant success, but I think that it's definitely intriguing.
I think. Okay, that's what you predict. Who do you want?
I mean, it's the same answer. I would rather prior to everything coming out, I wanted Flores. Like, it's like, how do you? We just kind of talked about it. Like, you never know what you're going to get when you hire a coach, but he has a track record. He took a terrible team. Like, the Dolphins were as bad as we are now, maybe worse, and he made them fairly competitive. So he has a track record there.
Yep.
He seems like, and he seemed intense in the good way. So he was it. But everything that happened apparently with Tua and all that, like all those stories, I mean, they got to me. Like, I don't know the man. I just know what I hear on the news. But that was concerning, and I was like, oh, we've already been through that with Bill O'Brien. Let's maybe shy away from it. And I've spoken about for years, like the West Coast outside zone offense that the Kubiak Shanahan tree runs, like I've been obsessed with it for years since we started this podcast. Like, that's what I've always said. I've always wanted one of those styles of coaches. So between O'Connell and Flores, like, that's who I'd want. And I really don't have a preference. If it's Gannon, I would be a little bit disappointed, but depending on who he brings in as offensive coordinator. But those are my two guys.
Yeah, I think ideally, in a perfect world, I would love to see, Brian Flores be the head coach. Josh McCown in some capacity, just because you'd like to groom another young talented individual. If he leaves, he leaves. But I think it'd be interesting. But I think it's either O'Connell and Gannon and McCown, or I think that's where it ends up going, is Gannon or O'Connell. I can't see Josh by himself, and I can't see. I don't know, man. Like, when you look at the Brian Flores situation now, like, okay, so the Vikings, they just brought in, so they've interviewed D'Amico Ryans, Patrick Graham, the DC, who are both black, and then they're about to hire Jim Harbaugh.
Didn't it D'Amico Ryans actually turned down the interview?
Oh, did he? I thought he interviewed.
I thought he was the one that turned. Though Miko turned down somebody. I thought that was the Vikings, or maybe it was the second interview where he decided he was just gonna go back. He said he wanted to spend another year.
No, he did. He declined it. He declined it with them. He declined it. Okay, so then that might make it even worse. So Patrick Graham, black defensive coordinator out of New York for the Giants, was interviewed today, and then they're going to hire Jim Harbaugh. Okay, so if we're following the trend here of the NFL, New York Giants interview Brian Flores, bring him in for a second interview, even though they already decided it was Brian Daboll, and Brian Daboll gets hired. If Brian Flores is the only potential black head coach candidate for the Houston Texans, and they brought him in for a second interview yesterday, and they end up going with either Gannon, McCown, or O'Connell, I don't know, man. It sounds like bad PR.
It sounds like awful PR.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it definitely there, but it's also maybe like the timing of the case being released, or the suit being released, because it kind of gives the Texans that out. Which, I don't know. Part of me is like, is it possible that Caserio, because he is kind of close to Flores, was like, hey, we're not going to go your direction? I think, and this is almost why I think O'Connell is probably more likely, and maybe McCown's more of a chance, is because I think they would want to go with an offensive coach if they think they have something with Mills.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it matters. I put this out the other. I don't really care if it's offensive, defensive minded head coach. I think both know the opposing side of the ball in a relatively well manner, and they can hire the right coaches to do it. But who knows what you got in Mills? That's a whole nother conversation. And then now, reports are that Philadelphia has contacted Nick about Deshaun. Tampa Bay is now in need of a quarterback. Yeah, it's I was thinking last night, what about the Niners? Like, what if they are not sold on Trey Lance? Right? Look how close they came this year. Like, tell me that the Niners team with Deshaun Watson isn't a Super Bowl contender in the NFC every year he's
Dude,
there.
they're a dynasty with Deshaun.
Right.
Like that's not an exaggeration. Like they straight up are. And I honestly think that if the accusations didn't come out last year, like he probably would be a Niner. I think they would have been more aggressive going after him.
Yeah, I agree. So I have to wonder if Shanahan's window is not necessarily shrinking, because I don't think that there's any talks of letting him go. But at the end of the day, he needs that quarterback, and we don't know if Trey Lance is that. They obviously, they kept rolling Jimmy G out there.
And I mean, they don't need a huge upgrade over Jimmy G. Like, look at how efficient they were able to make Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
They need a guy that can make maybe 3 or 4 more plays a game.
Yep.
That's it. And
Deshaun would do that.
Dude, Deshaun would.
He'd probably be an MVP. He might end up being what I said he was and be better than Mahomes if he was on Kyle Shanahan's. On a Kyle Shanahan led team. I can't see it any other way.
I absolutely believe it. I mean,
yeah.
That would have actually been fun to watch.
It would have been. Yeah, and then Carolina's in there too. Man, what about this weekend, dude? Back-to-back weekends of games. But how freaking amazing is it to see the Bengals in the Super Bowl? I mean, seriously. Like, it is it has to, like, every Texans fan should feel somewhat optimistic watching this extremely quick rebuild of the Bengals. Get the right coach, get the right quarterback, get a good running game, get a above average defense that can get after the quarterback, and draft who knows how great of a wide receiver truly Jamar Chase actually is. He could be one of the greatest of all time if he stays on this trajectory.
Dude, with
probably insane.
Here's one of my favorite tweets from the weekend. I wish I could remember who sent it. But it was one of those where if the Bengals make the Super Bowl with that offensive line, no team can ever complain about their offensive line ever again, because their offensive line is trash.
Dude, they're so right, though. Man, did I light Texans Twitter on fire Sunday?
Oh, dude, yeah. You didn't say anything wrong.
I've burned that bitch to the ground, but it was all true. He did do what Deshaun couldn't do.
You didn't say anything outrageous. You just said something pretty simple.
I got destroyed by some.
Dude, you got called out by players.
Yeah, but that busted ass Titus Howard and Laramie Tunsil. We all wonder how Laramie actually hurt his thumb. Maybe now we know. He probably shoved it in a place that no. He learned from Deshaun where he should use his thumb at. But yeah, I don't know. That was just funny. I literally didn't even. I just put it and went. I didn't think anything about it once I sent it. I was like, oh, and then it was like, oh shit, oh shit. But whatever.
I mean, it's one of those, like, again, I still can't believe how controversial, I guess, like that was for you to state a simple fact, because Deshaun didn't do it. And it's amazing how many people it wasn't Deshaun's fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing how many people stood up for him that, obviously Deshaun doesn't care about them. So I don't know why they got his back so much, but
that's
it is what it is.
Part. Like, and even with Titus, like, bro, I literally didn't say anything wrong. I didn't say that the line was trash. I just said that bro did it with a worse O-line.
Yeah.
But like Titus really got in his feelings. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Titus is trying to go wherever Deshaun's going too. I mean, he did, or not Titus, Laramie is. But Titus, yeah, I was shocked by Titus. Like, he quit on Titus.
Right. Yo, like I would assume if I was Titus, I would feel a lot better if Deshaun Watson was my quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I mean, again,
but
you didn't say anything wrong. Like, you nailed it. Like, and Burrow didn't win the game against the Chiefs. He just didn't lose it.
that's all I said. That's all I said. And I just don't understand how people can Bob was bad against the Chiefs. Yes, the defense was bad against the Chiefs. But guess what? Your quarterback was not great against the Chiefs after the first quarter. All three things can be 100% true, and they are. But the fact that nobody can say that Deshaun Watson was bad for 3 quarters against the Chiefs, even though he's throwing balls in the freaking dirt, I don't understand it. Go back and watch the all 22. Wide receivers were open. They were open.
There was that Chiefs game. I mean, we talked about it at length afterwards, where if he stopped going for the big play, if he had just stayed on schedule in that game and just kept moving the ball, even if they never scored again, would have made a big difference. But the offense just wasn't holding on to the ball, and the defense legitimately ran out of gas. So yeah, I mean, you didn't need Deshaun to be a superhero in that game after the first quarter. You just needed him not to fall apart, and the entire team fell apart.
All you needed from Deshaun at that point was just to truly manage the game, make a couple more plays. The defense would have been a little bit better, not much, but a little bit better had they sustained some drives and gave the defense some rest instead of, what was it, like 7 straight 3-and-outs or something wild like that, right? Dude, it's crazy to me. And I get it. Like, Deshaun is great, amazing. He's a very good quarterback. That day he was not great. And then if you're gonna blame Bob for the collapse, why aren't you gonna give Bob credit for the 24 points that were scored in the first 6 minutes of the first quarter? Like, if that was all Deshaun, then why wasn't this Deshaun as well? It makes no sense. Like, there's no logic at all when it comes to Texans Twitter or the fan base in general.
Well, I mean, Deshaun's style of play, and this isn't the run around and scramble. I'm not talking about that. Like, Deshaun could throw from the pocket. He could play from the pocket. But when I say his style of play is when he got to be super aggressive, he was really, really good.
Yep.
And when he got to be aggressive, he could almost be next level. That's why he always did. Not almost. He was next level at time. That's why why he always had these big comebacks. Because if the defense took a little bit off the gas when they were attacking him, like if a defense wasn't attacking Deshaun, he would light them on fire. Any team that had a lead and they would no longer attack Deshaun, he could light them on fire. Like, that's an absolute talent. Deshaun couldn't play with a lead. He just couldn't calm down. He hadn't learned that. I'm sure he could. Like, he has all the physical ability to learn it. He with the Texans, for whatever reason, he was just never in that position. But when he got to be super aggressive, when he got to play a tired defense, when he got to sit there and just let it rip, that's when Deshaun was at his best. But protecting a lead, he was not.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. And you know when he really played his best was when he was down three or four touchdowns.
Oh, yeah.
That's when he was at his best. Garbage time.
And I mean, and I'm not even going to go. Well, I mean, it would start off as garbage time, but that was one of the things that Deshaun could do. He could take something that started off as garbage time and bring you back into a game.
Yeah, like, even that Bills game, he played like
that's
trash.
Not even a ditch. Yeah, he did.
The Colts
but he had
game,
an amazing. I mean, he had an amazing play. But he didn't play well. Yeah.
The Colts game the year prior, he was garbage. Send a nickel blitz his way, and guess what?
The Colts. Yeah,
so, I don't know,
Colts
man.
playoff game, like I don't.
I'll never forget that game. That game was awful.
Like, people are asking or are treating like Deshaun's definitely going to win a Super Bowl. He has the potential to. Like, he does have that talent level. Like, he has the talent level, and he has moments where he could be the best quarterback in the league. I am not trashing Deshaun. But what he has shown so far and consistency level is he was nowhere near there yet.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
And
All
I don't
right,
understand. And that's going to be controversial. Somebody's going to clip that and say, hey, look, these guys are saying Deshaun sucks again. No, we never said Deshaun sucked. We had 3 years in a row where we had podcasts directly, the
they're called the
Deshaun
Watson
cast
cast.
or the Watson cast. And like, we loved Deshaun. Like, we're not trashing him, but he wasn't already a Hall of Famer. He hasn't reached that point yet.
He might not ever.
Not now.
How cool is the Super Bowl? I don't even know who to root for. Like, I want to go Bengals because that's so cool. But then I'm like, Stafford, 13 years in Detroit, and then and always been extremely talented, but just played for one of the worst organizations in the NFL, and has a chance at winning a Super Bowl his first year off of that team. That's such a crazy storyline. And then you got Joe Burrow, who, yeah, he wasn't like Patrick Mahomes great on Sunday, but he did enough. He did enough to win the game. And he came back, down 18, 17, something like that. That was such a great game. It's so hard not to root for the Bengals. And DJ Reader's on the Bengals, who we all like. Everybody, I think every Texans fan loves DJ Reader. It's not like he left in a way like most Texans have over the last 2 or 3 years. So,
no, Texans fans were universally upset that we paid Merciless instead of Reader. Like that,
100%, and we should.
That was a decision by the franchise that everybody questioned at the time.
Yeah.
Like, people trying to pull out receipts, blah, 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 blah. No, everybody questioned that. Like, everybody knew that was the wrong play.
Yep.
Like, you could sit there and you could try to maybe defend it because of the positional value, but everybody knew that was the wrong idea. And no, this Super Bowl, I'm sure maybe we'll talk about it a little bit more next week when we can actually sit there and think about it. But yeah, like Joe Burr, there might be something to him. Like, he's that guy. Here's the crazy thing. Davis Mills is more athletic than Joe Burrow, like by every measurable, like very similar 40 times. Mills has the better arm. He was the better pedigree. But I said it a little bit a couple of weeks back. It's why it's so hard to see what quarterbacks are going to be successful.
Yeah.
Because you look at Burrow, who won a national championship in college, going to play in the Super Bowl here. Granted, his supporting cast, like, dude, at LSU, like that receiving core, like just other level, like that's just unfair. Like that receiving core. Usually, people talk about, like the best college football team couldn't beat the worst NFL team. Like there's no chance. That receiving core with Burrow, their rookie year, they could have put points on an NFL team. Definitely. Like between Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like that team was just absolutely loaded. But even if you have all that talent, to have a quarterback to make sure to get that talent fed is an accomplishment, if that's all he was doing. But no, he does more than that. And that Cincinnati team, I mean, on offense, they have just enough talent. Their defense is gelling right at the right time, and they're getting a little bit of that turnover luck.
Yep. Yeah, and
they're fun.
Like Teague says, like they got some cap room. They still got the draft capital. Like this team can only get better. So yeah, because they can get better, I kind of want to pull for Matthew Stafford. But just seeing a 2-year rebuild and win a Super Bowl, considering it's been like 20 years since 20 years since they won a playoff game or something wild like that. So I think I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea. We'll talk about it next week.
I mean, I haven't made my decision either. I like watching the Rams play. Like, they're just a fun team to watch play.
Yeah. It's going to be – and here's the thing. Like, that pass rush against that offensive line is just going to be a problem.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest mismatches ever. Like, you've got Aaron Donald versus an interior offensive line that was worse than ours. So
yeah,
that should definitely be entertaining. But I mean, Mixon's a talent.
Yep.
T. Higgins is a very good football player. Jamar Chase, like, if there's another player that
beast, bro.
Dude, he could be like I love Debo Samuel. Debo Samuel, y'all have known it. I've talked about him for
I
years.
love Debo too.
But Jamar Chase is that unique guy that could do everything Debo does. Whether or not he will, because I don't know if you ever want to put a first round receiver running between the tackles like Debo does. But
Yeah.
Jamar Chase he's just
He's so good.
next level plus an even better deep threat. Like,
Yeah. I agree. All right. Junior asked, do we think that B.O.B. will be the OC in New England? Oh, I didn't even think about that. I hope so. I would love to see B.O.B. back in the league, but just no personnel decisions.
I don't know.
Unless he goes to the Dolphins. If he goes to the Dolphins, give him GM duties, give him everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Reunite the whole group.
I have no idea how to predict any of that anymore because I thought McDaniels would have
Came
ended
out
up
of nowhere.
here instead of Las Vegas.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
so we'll see. And I mean, there's been rumors around Bill O'Brien though going back and being the OC as soon as McDaniels left, since the day he was fired here.
Yep.
Like I think that was one of the stories. It's like that's part of the reason why he was okay with being fired is he couldn't wait till McDaniels took a job somewhere else so he could go back to New England.
Yep, I agree. All right. Well, that's 50 minutes. That's pretty good. All right, you got anything else, John?
Did you watch the Book of Boba Fett yet?
No, I hear it's awful.
It was until this past episode, and this past episode was actually really good.
Okay, well then I'll give it a shot. I'm gonna finish Ozarks first.
I haven't watched Ozark yet.
Ever?
Like I watched the first season, and then I
Oh.
completely forgot about it because it took so long for the second season to come out. So I'm so behind.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, it's great.
Gotta get back into it.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you guys next week to break down the hire or not hire and who we think it'll be. But with that being said, make sure you guys follow us on Twitter at Houston FB Pod. Follow us on Instagram at Houston FB Pod. Follow me on Twitter at I am Young Ari Gold. There's a underscore somewhere in there. Follow John at John A Wade 3. And with that being said, signing off for Texans Unfiltered. I am Young Ari Gold. I'll catch you guys, and John will catch you guys next week.